Your feet are deformed. Not in a dramatic way. You probably can't even tell. But stack your skeleton next to a human from 10,000 years ago, and the difference is right there in the bones. Smaller muscles, collapsed arches, toes that no longer spread. And the thing that did it, it's probably on your feet right now. For about 300,000 years, Homo sapiens walked this earth completely barefoot. No sandals, no support. Just skin on rock, mud, and thorn. And here's what's wild. Their feet were built for it. Fossilized footprints from ancient Tanzania, about 3.6 million years old, show its stride pattern almost identical to ours. Same heel strike, same push-off from the big toe, but the foot doing that walking, wider, stronger. The toes spread out like fingers, gripping the ground on every step. The arch wasn't a weak point, it was a spring. Load it, release it, propel forward. No energy wasted. These people were persistence hunters. They didn't sprint down prey. They ran it into the ground, sometimes for hours, across brutal terrain, barefoot, and the foot evolved over millions of years to be extraordinarily good at exactly that. Then, around 40,000 years ago, something changed in the fossil record. Researchers studying foot bones from early modern humans noticed the smaller toes started getting weaker. The bones thinned. The muscle attachment points shrank. This happens when a body part stops being used at full capacity, and the timeline matches almost exactly with when archaeologists believe the first foot coverings appeared. Animal hide, wrapped around the foot, tied with sinew. It wasn't a shoe. It was closer to a sock, but it was enough to start the clock. The oldest confirmed shoes ever found aren't leather. They're sandals woven from plant fiber, sagebrush bark, discovered in a cave in Oregon. They're about 10,000 years old, and they're surprisingly sophisticated, layered, structured, clearly the product of a long craft tradition, which means shoes like them were being made long before that. But those early sandals shared one thing in common with your ancestors' bare feet. They had no arch support, no cushioning, no heel raise. The foot still had to do its own work. The sandal just protected the skin from cuts and cold. That actually matters a lot, because a foot that has to stabilize itself builds strength throughout the entire kinetic chain. Calves, shins, the tiny intrinsic muscles inside the foot itself. Take that load away and those muscles atrophy. Slowly, over generations. Now jump forward to ancient Rome. The Romans had military sandals called caligae, studded leather soles, open tops, built for 20-mile marches. Still flat, still minimal. Their soldiers' feet were functional tools. Tough, wide. The legions conquered half the world in what were essentially very well-made thongs. Then medieval Europe happened. And this is where things get genuinely strange. For about 300 years, roughly the 14th and 15th centuries, European elites wore shoes called poulaines. The toes were absurdly long and pointed, sometimes 24 inches long. They were stuffed with moss or hair to hold the shape. They did absolutely nothing useful. They were pure status. The longer your toe, the more powerful you were. Some had to be tied to the knee just to walk. Peasants wore flat, wide, practical shoes. Lords shuffled around in ridiculous points. It was wealth displayed through deliberate uselessness. Sound familiar? The real skeleton-altering moment came later. Much later. In 1800, almost all shoes were still straight-lasted, meaning there was no left foot and no right foot. One neutral shape for both. The concept of a shoe designed specifically for each foot's natural asymmetry didn't become standard until the mid-1800s. And the heel. The modern raised heel wasn't originally designed for support. It was borrowed from Persian horse riders in the 1500s. The heel locked into the stirrup. Then European aristocrats adopted it as a fashion statement. Catherine de' Medici wore elevated heels in 1533 to appear taller. Men wore them too. High heels were masculine for about 150 years before they became exclusively women's fashion. That raised heel has a structural consequence. It throws the body's center of gravity forward. The spine compensates by curving differently. The Achilles tendon shortens to adapt. Wear a raised heel long enough, and your tendon literally contracts, making it uncomfortable to stand flat-footed at all. Your body builds itself around the shoe. Here's where the modern twist hits hardest. In the 1970s, Nike and other brands invented the cushioned running shoe. Thick midsoles, padded heels, arch support baked in. It was marketed as the solution to injury. Run further, run safer. And the world bought it, literally. But something unexpected happened. Injury rates in runners didn't drop. They climbed. Research from Harvard biomechanist Daniel Lieberman showed that heavily cushioned shoes actually encourage heel striking, slamming your heel into the ground with every step, a pattern that generates significant impact force that travels straight up the skeleton. Barefoot runners, by contrast, naturally land on the midfoot or forefoot, distributing that force more efficiently. The shoe meant to protect you was changing how you ran in ways your skeleton wasn't designed for. Here's the thing, shoes aren't evil. They protected our ancestors from frostbite, infection, and thorns. They still do. But somewhere between the sagebrush sandal and the triple cushion sneaker, we forgot that the foot itself is the technology. The most advanced piece of locomotion engineering on Earth isn't in a shoe lab. It's been on the end of your leg for 300,000 years. Maybe give it a little more credit.